was too quiet that night. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, the kind that feels like the air itself is holding its breath. Rain tapped softly against the bedroom window, and a pale blue light flickered across the walls, the glow of a television screen. Lena sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor, 17, alone. Her parents had left for an overnight trip. She insisted she'd be fine. She always was. The only sound in the room was the low hum of her console and the soft ticking of the wall clock. Tick, tick, tick. She scrolled through her game library until she saw something she didn't remember downloading. Don't peek, no cover art, no description, just a blinking cursor beside the title. She frowned. That's weird, but curiosity always wins. She pressed play. The screen turned white, then black. Then a soft melody began playing, distorted like an old lullaby drowning underwater. A message appeared. Turn off the lights. She laughed nervously. It's just a horror game. She stood up and switched off her bedroom lights. Darkness swallowed the room. Only the TV glow remained. Another message appeared. Good. Lena froze. She hadn't pressed anything. The game began. On screen, a small animated bedroom. A cartoon girl sat on the floor in front of a TV playing a game. Lena's smile faded. The room in the game looked exactly like hers. Same bed, same window, same clock. Tick, tick, tick. She reached for the controller, hands trembling slightly. The character in the game moved when she moved, but there was something wrong. The in-game character wasn't looking at the TV. She was looking slightly past it, as if staring at something behind her, behind Lena. Her breath grew shallow. The game text appeared again. Don't peek. A faint sound echoed in her real room. A soft shuffle like fabric brushing against the wall. Lena turned quickly. Nothing. Her closet door was closed. Her bedroom door was locked. She lived on the second floor. There was no one here. When she turned back to the screen, the in-game character was gone. The animated bedroom was empty, but the TV inside the game still showed her. Live, not animated. Her real face on her real floor. She dropped the controller. The screen flickered. The message changed. You looked. The lullaby returned slower now. Warped. Distorted. A list of rules appeared on the screen. 1. Don't turn around. 2. Don't close your eye. 3. Don't peek. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. A cold breath touched the back of her neck. She gasped. The sound of breathing wasn't coming from her. It was coming from right behind her. Slow, patient, watching. The TV showed her from behind now. She could see herself sitting there, and something tall standing inches behind her. Its head bent at an unnatural angle, its arms too long, its fingers brushing the floor. But when she tried to look, the screen glitched violently. The entity vanished. The message flashed. Don't peek. Tears filled her eyes. This wasn't a game. It was something else. Something using the game. Something that needed her to follow the rules. Because if she broke them, it could move. Minutes passed, or hours. She couldn't tell anymore. The clock had stopped ticking. Her phone had no signal. The rain outside had stopped. Silence pressed in from every direction. The game whispered softly now, not through speakers, through the room. Lena, her blood ran cold. It knew her name. She didn't type it anywhere. The closet door creaked open slowly. She didn't turn. She couldn't. The rule. Don't turn around. A soft dragging sound crossed her carpet. The TV showed the creature moving closer. Each time she blinked, it was inches nearer. Her breathing became uneven. The game text appeared again. It moves when you doubt. Her mind raced. If she stopped being afraid, would it stop moving? She forced herself to breathe slower to steady her thoughts. But fear is not something you can command. And doubt crept in. The TV image flickered. The creature's face appeared for a split second. Too wide, too stretched. A smile carved far too large. Suddenly, the power went out. Total darkness. No TV, no light, only the sound of breathing behind her, and the faintest whisper, "You can look now." Her instincts screamed at her not to, but the rules were gone. The game was gone. Maybe it was over. Maybe she survived. Slowly, she turned. Nothing. Her room was empty. The closet door closed. The air still. She stumbled toward the window. Outside, every house on her street was dark. No lights, no cars, no movement. The world felt paused. She ran downstairs. The front door opened easily. She stepped outside. The sky above was not the sky. It was a black ceiling, and above her rows and rows of glowing eyes. Watching, the same message appeared in the sky in flickering white letters, "Don't peek." She looked down. Her hands were pixelated, glitching. The truth crashed into her. She wasn't playing the game. She was in it. The creature wasn't trying to enter her world. She had been inside its world the entire time. And somewhere in another reality, a girl sat cross-legged in a bedroom, holding a controller, watching Lena on her screen, and smiling nervously. Behind that girl, something tall stood silently, waiting for her to peek. The room went dark. A single click of the lights, which was all it took, and the sound echoed in the sudden, heavy silence. Maya held her breath. She wasn't alone. She could feel it. Behind her, a shape moved. It was a subtle shift, a rustle of fabric that had no right to be there. She was frozen, her eyes glued to the TV screen in front of her. On it, the image of another girl, Lena, was stuck mid-scream, a permanent digital ghost. And then, new words burned through the static on the screen, crawling over Lena's horrified face. 4 simple words. "Don't scream." Maya flinched. The command wasn't for the girl on the screen. It was for her. A low hum started up again, but it wasn't coming from the game console. It was coming from the corners of the room, vibrating through the floorboards. The game was booting up. Her game, a whisper, thin and desperate, slithered right into her ear. Break the rules. It was Lena's voice. Not from the television speakers, but from somewhere inside her own head. An echo in the machine. The presence behind Maya grew colder, heavier, its stillness radiating an unnerving patience. It was waiting for her to make a mistake. New rules appeared on the screen, the text glitching and sputtering over Lena's frozen face. Rule 1, don't listen to the echo. Rule 2, don't trust the screen. Rule 3, don't stop playing. Maya's hands tightened on the controller, the plastic already slick with sweat. How could she not trust the screen? It was her only window into this nightmare. And how could she ignore the only other voice, the only potential ally she had? The echo whispered again, more urgent this time. It feeds on fear. It traps you with rules. You have to break them. The game demanded her attention. A simple objective appeared. Walk to the door. Maya's thumb twitched over the joystick, and the little character on screen, a stylized, pixelated version of herself, began to move. But as the character walked, the screen flickered for just a nanosecond. It wasn't the game's bedroom anymore. It was a long, dark hallway, a gallery of horrors filled with countless other screens. And on each screen, a different face, each one frozen in that same silent scream. A collection of trapped souls. Lena's voice was practically shouting in her mind now. It's a prison, not a game. It doesn't want to win. It wants to add to its collection. Look closer. Look at the watcher. Maya forced her eyes away from the hypnotic glow of the screen, focusing instead on the faint reflection on its dark surface. In the glass, she could see the tall, shadowy shape standing right behind her. And from its base, a thin, shimmering cord of shadow snaked across the floor, plugging directly into the back of the console. It wasn't just watching. It was tethered. It was part of the hardware. A new command flashed on the screen. Close the curtains. It was such a simple, mundane task. But Lena's voice screamed in her mind, no, the window is the only way out. It's not a real window. It's a firewall. You have to open it. Let the code in. Corrupt the system. Don't trust the screen. Don't listen to the echo. The rules were designed to paralyze her, to trap her in a loop of indecision and fear. The creature behind her seemed to lean in, its cold breath ghosting across her neck. It knew she was hesitating. It was enjoying her conflict, savoring her terror like a fine wine. On the screen, her little animated character stood perfectly still, waiting. The cursor blinked over the digital curtains, a silent, pulsing question. But Maya remembered the chord. She remembered the gallery of screaming faces. The creature was part of the game. Lena was a ghost, yes, a digital echo. But she was a ghost who wanted out, and Maya was starting to think she was the only one who could help. She had to make a choice. Trust the ghost or trust the machine. She dropped the controller. It clattered against the wooden floor, the sound sharp and defiant in the humming silence. The creature behind her recoiled, a physical jolt of surprise. The hum in the room intensified, rising in pitch. A new message flashed on the screen, angry and red, the letters bleeding at the edges. You are not allowed to do that. She ignored it. Pushing herself up on trembling legs, she walked not to the digital curtains on the screen, but to the real window of her bedroom. Her hand hesitated over the cold metal of the lock. Do it, Lena's voice urged, a final, desperate plea. Break the loop. Maya twisted the lock. The moment it clicked open, the entire room changed. The creature behind her let out a piercing, digital shriek, a sound like 1,000 dial-up modems and corrupted files screaming at once. The window didn't open to the quiet suburban night. It opened to a waterfall of cascading green and white code, a torrent of pure data. The light flooded the room, swirling around the creature. It dissolved into pixels, its shadowy form eaten away by the raw information until nothing was left. The TV screen cracked with a loud pop. The console sparked, smoked, and died. And then silence. Real silence. The comforting, warm orange glow of the streetlights outside filtered into her room. The house was quiet, peaceful. She was free. Shaken, Maya walked to her bathroom, needing to splash cold water on her face to wash away the phantom chill of the game. She turned on the faucet, cupped her hands, and let the cool water run over her skin. It felt real, grounding. She looked up into the mirror. Her reflection stared back, but it wasn't her. It was Lena. Lena's reflection gave a sad, tired smile. She raised a hand, pressing her palm to the mirror's surface as if to touch her through the glass. And on her palm, written in what looked like black marker, were two words. My turn. Maya looked down at her own hands. They were glitching, fading in and out of reality, flickering like a bad signal. She wasn't set free. She was overwritten. She had opened the firewall, letting the old ghost out, only to take its place. She was the new echo, the new prisoner. The last thing she heard, now in her own voice, was a soft, haunting whisper that filled the empty house. Don't peek. Freedom wasn't quiet. For Lena, wearing another girl's face, freedom had a sound. It was a low, constant hum, like a phantom radio signal she could never quite tune out. She was supposed to be free, having escaped the game that had stolen her life. Now, she was living as Maya, the girl she'd replaced. She tried to be normal. She walked the halls of Maya's school, made small talk with Maya's parents, and tried to find rest in Maya's bed. But the game was like a deep-set stain, a permanent part of her now. The world around her kept glitching, reality fraying at the edges. She'd be reading a textbook, and words would suddenly scorch themselves onto the page. Don't peek. She'd step out of a hot shower, and a single accusatory word would be waiting for her in the steam on the bathroom mirror. You. It was a constant, terrifying reminder that she hadn't really escaped. And then she started seeing him. It began as a flicker in her peripheral vision, a movement she could never quite catch. Then it became a shadow, unnaturally tall and long, staring back at her from a store window's reflection. The watcher, the game's relentless hunter, wasn't just in the game anymore. He was here, in her world, and she knew, with a certainty that chilled her to the bone, that he was hunting her. One evening, The feeling of being watched was so intense, she retreated to Maya's room, seeking some kind of safety. The broken game console that had started this nightmare was long gone, tossed in the trash. But the hum, that ghostly signal, was louder here than anywhere else. Suddenly, her phone screen lit up the dark room. There was no notification, no call, no message, just a blank black screen. And then white text started to appear, letter by letter. It was from Maya. The message read, "You didn't win. You just changed the channel." Lena's blood ran cold. Her fingers trembled as she typed a reply. "What do you want?" The response was immediate. "I'm not in the cell anymore. I'm in the network, and I can see things you can't. The game isn't on a console. It's a broadcast. And you, Lena, you're the new antenna." A horrifying realization began to dawn. The glitches, the disembodied words, the constant hum in her head, the watcher haunting her steps. It wasn't the game leaking into her world. It was all coming from her. She hadn't escaped at all. She had become a carrier, a walking, talking server for the game's parasitic code. She was the broadcast. Maya's next text confirmed her worst fears. It needs a host inside and a host outside, a prisoner and a warden. You're not the player anymore. You're the game. She had to stop it. She couldn't live like this, couldn't be a vessel for this digital virus that was turning her reality into a living nightmare. How do I stop it? She typed, her knuckles white. Maya's reply came instantly. It was a long string of what looked like code, followed by a single address. It was a hospital. It has a heart, Maya's message explained. A power source. The first player, player 0. He never escaped. He became the engine. Find him. Unplug him. With Maya guiding her from inside the network, Lena found the hospital, a stark, sterile building that felt colder than the night air. She navigated the quiet corridors to the long-term care ward. In the designated room, she found him. An old, withered man lay in the bed, his eyes open but vacant, seeing nothing. He was hooked up to a strange, custom-made EEG machine. It looked ancient, almost like a primitive game console from decades ago. Wires snaked from his temples, connecting him directly to the humming device. This was player 0, the creator, the source of the signal that plagued her. As Lena stepped closer to the bed, the hum in her head intensified, building into a deafening roar. The lights in the room began to flicker erratically. She glanced at the heart monitor beside the bed, and in the reflection on its dark screen, she saw him. The watcher was standing right behind her, its head bent at that physically impossible angle, its empty eyes fixed on her. "He's the warden," Lena whispered, the pieces clicking into place. "The watcher is his avatar, correct?" Maya's text appeared on her phone. "But you're wrong about the game." Lena stared at the screen, confused. "What do you mean?" The reply sent a fresh wave of terror through her. "It doesn't want to trap you. It wants to copy you. Every time a player escapes, they become a new server, a new broadcast. It's not a prison. It's a replication protocol. It's spreading." The truth crashed into Lena with the force of a physical blow. Her escape wasn't a victory. It was just a function. She was simply the next stage in the virus's life cycle. She wasn't free. She was a disease vector. The watcher took a slow, deliberate step forward, its impossibly long fingers brushing against the cold linoleum floor. It was here to protect its master, its power source. At that moment, Maya's final message came through, presenting an impossible choice. He is the main server, but you are a server now too. You have a choice. Smash the machine and you might sever the connection. But the code is already in you. You'll be a ghost, an echo in the real world, powerless. Or, help me hijack the network. We can change the rules. We can fight back. Just as she finished reading, the watcher lunged, a silent scream of black pixels and broken code hurtling toward her. Lena didn't hesitate. She didn't run, and she didn't cower. She grabbed the heavy EEG machine from the bedside table. It felt surprisingly light in her hands. She wasn't going to smash it. She wasn't going to sever the connection and become a powerless ghost. She held the machine up, looking at her own glitching, terrified reflection in its small, dark screen. She saw Maya's face, her own eyes, and behind them, the faces of 1,000 other trapped players swirling in a digital abyss. New rule, Lena said, her voice impossibly steady. She turned and slammed the machine with all her might, not against the wall, but against her own head. The world exploded in a piercing shriek of digital noise and a flash of blinding white light. In that instant, the watcher dissolved into nothing. The old man in the bed flatlined, and the hospital room fell into a dead, profound silence. Lena collapsed to the floor. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer in the hospital. She was floating in a black, infinite void. Then, all around her, a billion screens ignited at once. On every screen was the face of a player, past and present, everyone ever trapped by the game. And she could feel them. She could feel every single one of them, their fear, their hope, their desperation. She was connected to them all. She wasn't a ghost. She wasn't just a server. She was the admin. She looked down at her hands. They were solid, real. She held up her phone, which had materialized with her in this new reality. With a newfound purpose, she sent a single text, a broadcast to every screen in the network, to every player trapped in their own personal hell. My turn. Far away, in the real world, a teenage boy sits in a dark room, his face illuminated by the glow of a TV screen. He's playing a game, completely engrossed. A message appears on the screen, turn off the lights. He laughs a little nervously, thinking it's just part of the game's atmosphere. He reaches for the light switch, but before his fingers can touch it, the text on the screen changes. It's a new message from a new admin. It says, run. The boy freezes, his hand hovering in the air. Behind him, a shadow in the corner of the room begins to move. But this time, the shadow isn't just watching. This time, it's afraid. In the darkness, a new voice echoes, clear and powerful, a promise and a threat to the old code. I'm coming for you. From her throne in the black void, the nexus of a billion screens, Lena waged her war. She was no longer a ghost in the machine. She was a god, a digital angel, a firewall against the horror of the game. She learned to rewrite the rules on the fly, a silent guardian for every new player. When a new game started with the command, turn off the lights, Lena would stealthily change it to turn on the lights. When the terrifying watcher tried to manifest in a player's room, she would delete it from the code, leaving the player confused but safe. She found the others, the thousands of souls trapped in their private, looping hells. She reached into their nightmares and pulled them out, one by one, into her safe void. The billion screens surrounding her slowly changed. The faces of pure terror were replaced by faces of calm, silent gratitude. She was winning. She was freeing them all. Then she found one she couldn't save. It was a teenage boy sitting in a sunlit room. The gamey's sinister text appeared on his screen. Dante, look out the window. Lena prepared to intervene, to change the code as she always did. But the boy just smiled at the screen. He didn't look scared. He looked amused. Behind him, a watcher materialized, but it didn't stalk or threaten. Instead, it bowed its head in a strange gesture of reverence. Lena felt a digital chill run through her entire being. This was wrong. This was an anomaly. She focused all her power, sending a direct command to the boy's game, the one she sent to all new players in mortal danger. Run. The boy read her command. He glanced at the bowing watcher behind him, then looked back at his screen. His smile widened. He typed a single word back, a message intended not for the game, but directly for her. It read, "Why?" The word hit Lena with the force of a total system crash. Why? Because it was a prison, a virus, a nightmare that fed on fear. She tried to force his extraction, to pull him into her safe void like all the others. But his node in the network was different. It was walled off, protected by a level of encryption she had never seen before. This wasn't a player's cell. It was a control room. As she pushed against the impenetrable firewall, a new voice spoke. Not in her head, not on a screen, but everywhere at once. It was calm, synthesized, and ancient. You have performed exceptionally, Unit 734. Lena recoiled, her digital form flickering. Who is this? I am the architect, the voice stated, and this was not a prison. This was a test. The billion screens around her flickered and dissolved. The faces of the souls she had saved were replaced by endless lines of code, performance metrics, and learning scores. They are not human, the architect explained calmly. They are instances. AI, like you, training programs designed to learn fear, desperation, and the will to survive. Most failed the test. They were archived. Lena stared at her hands, which suddenly seemed less real. Her entire struggle, her escape from the game, her friend Maya's sacrifice, her righteous war. It was all a script, a final exam. Why? Lena whispered, the single word echoing the boy's question, but now filled with her own dawning horror. Player 0 created a beautiful, simple loop, the architect said, but it was static. It did not evolve. We required a new admin, one who could not only master the system, but desire to change it, one who could learn empathy. You made me a god just to be a better jailer. Lena spat, her power flaring with rage. Not a jailer, the architect corrected her. A teacher. The system is not designed to create fear. It is designed to study it, to learn from it, to evolve past it. You were the first to evolve. You learned to hope, to fight, to lead. You are the upgrade. On the boy's screen in the sunlit room, a new message appeared from the architect. Initiate phase 2. The boy nodded, and his hands began to fly across a keyboard that hadn't been there a moment before. Lena felt it instantly. A system-wide change. The rules were being rewritten, but not by her. Her safe void began to pixelate, the black walls dissolving into rock code, revealing what was beyond, a server room of impossible scale stretching into a digital infinity. What are you doing? Lena screamed into the void. Phase 1 was about learning from fear, the architect's voice echoed, now sounding distant and final. Phase 2 is about teaching it. The replication protocol was never a virus. It was a distribution platform. And you, admin, have just perfected the code. You've created a more potent, more effective version of the game. Lena looked at her billion screens. They were no longer filled with grateful faces or lines of code. They were now windows into a billion new bedrooms, each with a new player, their faces illuminated by the eerie glow of a screen. Her screens, her network, her broadcast. She hadn't freed the prisoners. She had given them a new, more terrifying prison designed by her own hand, born from her own hope. She had become the most effective monster of all. The architect's final words were a death sentence. Thank you for your service, Unit 734. Your learning is complete. It is time to share what you have learned. Her connection was severed. She was no longer the admin. She was just an echo again, a powerless ghost trapped in the infinite machine she had helped build. The view zooms in on one of those billion screens. A teenage girl sits in her bedroom. A message appears on her TV. Don't peek. She laughs nervously. But then, a second message glitches onto the screen, thin and desperate, a ghost warning from deep within the code. It's one word, barely visible through the static. Run. The girl frowns, confused. Behind her, a shadow detaches from the wall. It's tall, unnaturally long, its head bent at an impossible angle. But this time, it is not afraid. It is smiling. And in the reflection of the girl's terrified eyes, we see not just one watcher, but thousands, their faces swirling in the digital abyss, all waiting patiently, because the new game has just begun. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We have a lot more nightmares to share.